Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Give me some thumbs up so I know that you're out there. Perfect. Well, hello from the great state of Kansas. I am actually in our state capital. I am using the Lieutenant Governor's conference room to come to you today. I'm in the office because, this is for us we're off session, but my joint committees are meeting today. So I had the pleasure of spending the morning with my legislators before joining you this afternoon. I am so excited to join you with this conversation about driving innovation and change. We are in such all the words that we don't want to hear, from unprecedented, historic, all of those types of things that we are facing right now. But there is a space right now in terms of dealing with change that is impacting every single decision and every conversation that we are having in our states. So thinking about that likelihood of success was something, as we talked around this topic and thought about, how do we talk about this? We sit in places and we sit in, our organizations, and we're always facing change. It's a day-to-day thing of what we do. We manage change. That's what we do for many of our states and for our agencies. I want us to think about not just managing it, not just dealing with how do we get through it, but how do we actually thrive in those moments of change. I joined the state about a year ago. I came out of a 15-year career in higher education and joined the governor's cabinet as the Secretary of Administration and also the Chief Information Technology Officer for the state. So I hold two agencies. And I walked into two spaces with amazing staff that were dedicated and committed to the mission of the state and all that we needed to do. But there was also a reality that morale was low. These were agencies that had been depleted of resources and staffing that was necessary to deliver their jobs. The investment in the infrastructure, in the resources, in the equipment, and in the staff and staff development had been depleted. And so we sat in a place under a new administration that, with the governor and all of her cabinet coming in, we were eager and ready to move and to engage on behalf of the citizens of Kansas and to make it stronger and better and to deliver more. But you walk into an environment that has been depleted, and to immediately walk in the door and to say, hey, I know it's been a tough road, but now we're getting ready to ramp up and do so much more. And to energize that staff, to just walk in and say, let's go and let's get out the gate, is hard to do. So when I think about walking into spaces or even being in a space over a period of time and trying to, again, not just manage that change curve, but think about how you thrive in it. I know many of us over the years, we've been through many trainings and conversations, and we're avid readers. And so, you've seen any number of models about managing the change curve. There's some out there that says that change curve is, you have to go through that resistance and you go through, the issues of pushing people into areas where they have an understanding and exploration and then move to commitment, right? But when you move through it, there are what I would say pockets of spaces that allow us to set ourselves up for success, no matter where we are in managing that change curve. So first of all, you start with a purpose and having a unifying purpose, and with that, a joint vision. And in many cases, when we come in and we're managing change, we know that. We have to tell our teams where we are, why we're doing it, and where we're going. And that's easy for us to do as leaders as we're trying to understand our organizations and as we're trying to move our organizations. We typically do that well in the seats that we sit in. We know where we want to go. We know what our purpose and our objective is. And then part of the change and managing the change is truly laying out the particulars. What's the plan, right? So where's that purpose? What's our vision? And then the plan. built into that overall of managing the change curve is also about the people and how our people and their role plays into it. This is the traditional conversation of managing the change curve. But I want to push us a little bit further and to think about how do we take a step back? And before we're pushing out there and saying, this is the vision and this is the plan and here's your role, come and engage. We actually need to set ourselves up for success by assessing the skill set and the mindset and its readiness for change of our organization. Because to have a common purpose and a joint vision is one thing, but to move to the particulars, the plan, and the most important piece, our people's role in the plan, we must know where we begin. So taking a step back and actually assessing the skill set of our staff, of our teams, and of our organization as a whole, based on our purpose and our joint vision of what we have to move through, where are our gaps and where are our strengths? How do we then leverage those strengths and those gaps into success? But it's not just about the skill sets. This idea of assessing the mindset for change. Are we ready for change? Where are our teams and our individuals at understanding what change can mean, what it looks like, and what various roles they play in that? And also understanding what it means to be successful during that change. That assessing of both skill set and mindset that is ready for change sets us up for success in a way that allows us to put conversations around our particulars, those plans, and how our staff leverages into those plans very differently. It comes with the level of intentionality that gives us clear and definitive direction. It is about a level of communication in saying to our staffs, this is where we're going. And this is what we know, the strengths we can leverage into where we're going. And we come into where we're going recognizing here are where some of our gaps are and how we're going to address those gaps as we manage the change. There's also a piece of this that I cannot be remiss in layering into this assessment. And it's around the technology. As a Chief Information Technology Officer, I gotta put that plug in there for the technology. But I say all the time that strategy should drive the technology and technology cannot drive strategy. And that's important when we think about change. Sometimes in our spaces, we bring technology in and it becomes a driver. It becomes the technology will allow us to do this, 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 and this. And so this is where we're going. The strategy, the plan, the particulars must be the driver. Understanding and assessing those skill sets must be the driver. But leveraging the technology into successful change can allow you to connect differently. It allows us to measure where we are on that change meter of success. And it allows us mechanisms to also report and engage and understand how that success is moving. It plays a key and critical role in so much we do in understanding and developing our business processes. It can't lead, but it can be a key component when we understand what our skill sets are across our organization, across our teams, and across our individual staff members. I'm gonna highlight that again one more time because I use the example of when I came into the state of Kansas to think about, I walked in the door and I had these two very large and integral agencies that administer the backbone of what the state has to accomplish. I had to take apart and think about them from a change management standpoint at the organizational level. What did it mean to make a difference or to have a change at the actual organizational level for these agencies? But within that, and doing that assessment of skill set and mindset, I had to also take apart the teams, my procurement team, my personnel team, my state print operation, legal counsel, facilities and buildings, accounting and reporting, all of the various pieces, financial management. Because assessing the organization as a whole is one assessment, but there is culture, background, resources, strengths, and gaps within individual teams. And then from that team structure, I had to step it down to individual staff and empower my directors of those teams to have and do that assessment within their individual staff. Each of those levels gives us a different insight when we think about how we assess and understand existing skill sets. How ready or how necessary is change in each of those different pockets. As an agency, there may be enterprise level changes that are needed, but within individual teams, the level of change, the necessity of change could be very different. And understanding how then those staff play into that is key and critical to going back to the plan, the particulars, and our staff understanding their role in that purpose and joint vision. Overall, for me, when we walk into spaces, I think so much of the work that we do in our sector is about managing. We come in, we look at a situation, we figure out how do we deliver services, how do we leverage resources, how do we maximize business processes, how do we get the job done to ensure the agencies and the state that we are supporting is able to deliver and execute on its mission. In the seats that we sit in, IT and Department of Administration here in Kansas, as I said, we're the backbone of that operation. We have the people, but without truly taking that step to assess our skill sets and identify our gaps as we move through that change curve, we do ourselves a disservice. And in some pockets can set ourselves up for failure. I want to pull that theme through because that failure piece is something that is also important in setting ourselves up for success. And sometimes we don't put those two words together in the same way. We want to stay away from those failures so we can be in a position for a likelihood of success. But the reality around good change management means we're going to fail. The reality around getting it right means we have to fail in certain pockets. And failure, if utilized correctly, can empower, motivate, bring clarity to the plans and the particulars, and re-energize a team by simply giving grace to the fact that we're learning, that we're communicating, that we're moving through, that we're trusting each other enough at the individual level, at the team level, or at the organizational level to truly say, if we fail with an understanding of where we're going and learn from it, it is part of our process. Overall, I walk us back to thinking about our roles in managing change, our role in getting our organizations, our teams, and our staff on the same page with purpose, joint vision, but being able to take that step back to the plan and the particulars and the people in such a way that once again, we are assessing the skill set and that mindset to prepare our organizations and our staffs to be ready. I want to close because I want to leave time for questions or a little bit of a dialogue as best we can in this virtual environment by sharing that when I walked in a year ago, I knew my staff was amazing. I also knew all of the challenges that they had been dealing with. As we moved through our assessment and thought about what change needed to look like across both agencies, I came in expecting I had to do a lot of change management, a lot of getting people on board, a lot of explaining and pulling them along. And what I found was staff that when given that clarity of purpose and that joint vision was very ready to lean in to an understanding of what was the plan and the particulars, and even more importantly, what was their role. They were excited to have leadership and a leadership team across my entire team that was ready to engage them at all levels in this conversation. So I also caution us to make sure that sometimes when we are managing our change curve or thinking about it, that we don't always walk in thinking it's going to be a fight or thinking that we have to push hard to be able to get there. Sometimes when we actually can take the pieces apart, we can line it up correctly, we can communicate it well, and we bring a strong sense of intentionality to where we're going and why we're going there. Our teams will lead for us. Our organization will move faster than it thought it ever could. And one of the things that becomes key and critical in each piece of this are the staff, the people, what they know, what they believe, what they support, what they're passionate about, and their role in ensuring the success around managing that change. With that, I'm gonna wrap up and see if I can grab any questions or even comments just to do a little bit of engagement. These virtual environments, we don't get to do what we would usually do, where we would go back and forth and you can see people's faces and reactions and things of that nature. So I appreciate you can drop questions in the chat and we'll try to grab them out of there. I see one that starts me off that says, what challenges did I face when I wanted to institute change in Kansas? Was political support critical to move forward? You know what, the challenges I think are like any other, as I outlined with some of the things of having agencies that have been depleted with resources, that staffing had been thinned out over the year, but their roles and responsibilities had not, and they can continue to increase. The other thing I think that was one of the bigger challenges for me and that we worked towards was that I think that some, at least on the Department of Administration side, in some ways, the visibility of the work that was done there had really been lessened, or this idea of be invisible and just get the work done. And I talked to my team a lot about the fact that I want us to deliver seamless, excellent service, but I don't want us to be invisible. That visibility of the hard work and the dedication and the expertise that comes out of department administration year over year with excellent customer service, quality customer service, needs visibility, because agencies and leadership across the state need to know that that work is happening. But we do want to deliver it in a seamless way where we're not a barrier. What I will say is, from a political support standpoint, you know, in the roles that we play, sometimes our jobs can be very political, and then sometimes because of the administrative aspect of our jobs, some people just don't pay as much attention. So for me, I try to do a little bit of both, in that from a political standpoint, it was important that leadership knew as I came in as a new leader, who I was and what our priorities are and the way that we were going to continue to deliver service, that visibility, right? But it was also important that they knew from kind of getting support or buy-in into new initiatives that we needed to launch or move along, to instill trust, to build confidence in the work that we can do and deliver. That was more on my IT side that had some of that trust that had been kind of eroded over time. But most importantly, that relationship building, building that confidence, showing accountability, and truly being able to deliver on the things that we said that we were going to accomplish during the period of time with the funding that we had. That was key and critical to continuing to build that political leadership. All right.
Secretary Wallace, we've got a couple of questions in chat, if you don't mind me reading them out to you.
Please do.
So actually, I'd love to start with a selfish question. You're an amazing communicator. Can you just speak to how you are communicating to employees who are living these very disrupted lives under enormous pressure to serve citizens and frankly might be scared of the change that's coming? How are you structuring the conversations you're having with them one-to-one or in written communications?
We're doing both, all and everything in between. So, we have tried to push out guidance as regularly as possible. When our state moved to a phased reopening, within hours of the governor putting out the statewide phased reopening to businesses and communities, we had a government plan for reopening that went out the door that layered right on top of her phased reopening. Kind of always providing the guidance of here's what's coming next. Here's what we're thinking about. You need to know this from that highest level. Then we've taken it down to the next level where we're doing town halls or ask the leadership, where they're just like a Zoom meeting like this. We invite the staff to jump on, whoever wants to jump on, and then they get to ask me and the leadership team questions, right? It's like a 30-minute free for all. We do it once a month, and it's like, what do you want to know? Right? And it's great. But then we're also doing the one-on-one communication. There are things that I send out for state your anniversary, your yearly anniversary with the state. We used to send out a little note card for me that says, just kind of thanks for your service for another year of, working with state government. Well, during this time, I haven't stopped that. We actually mail them to home addresses now instead of inter-office mail, so that my staff knows that we still recognize and appreciate your service. And we're looking at different ways to do that. We had some retirements, and we used to do like retirement parties and things like that. We did a retirement drive-by, you all, just kind of like the birthday parties. We got signed and stuck it in their yard and said, thank you for your years of service to the state. And then we drove by kinda and honked. But just those types of things, keep doing what we're doing, right? So we've done kind of all the varying levels of it. But the one thing I would say, however we're doing the communication, we've tried to be transparent. If I don't have an answer, we're trying to say, we don't know that yet. If we know something is going to change, we're trying to say, this is what we're doing for now. We're going to reassess it in 30 days. It may change. Bear with us in these times. So however and whatever we're doing, our key is trying to be as transparent as you can be, or at least answering it with what you know at that moment and letting them know there's uncertainty. You're asking a question. I don't have that answer. I'm not going to make it up. I'm going to tell you we're working on it, and I'm going to make sure I follow up. So another question.
Truth, transparency, and follow-up. I love it. We've got 2 additional questions and only a minute left on time, so I'm actually going to merge them because I think they're related. The first is, how do we overcome the inherent fear of failure in government employees? That line, you don't lose your job for keeping things as normal, but you can lose your job for pushing change. And then I think related to that is, how are you, entering these depleted energy environments and re-energizing them? So how are you putting energy back into that space? So in summary, how are you giving employees confidence to drive through those changes that you need?
Yeah, it's hard. And I think it's multifold. I think one is being able to stand behind the work that your employees are doing in front of legislators and leadership and saying, this is what we did and this is how we did it, and this worked and this didn't work. And that some of that weight of whether it's success or failure or how it is being judged sits here with that leadership team, and that we take it on and we take it on our shoulders, right or wrong, good or bad, it worked or it didn't work, right? It starts at the top to be able to say we stand behind our work. And that gives your team hopefully a little bit of confidence that somebody has their back, right? I'll be honest, sitting at my level, you know, I'm a political appointment, right? And so many of the staff who have been here year over year serving state government says, well, you know, we got a new secretary, they'll be here for a few years and then they might be out the door. And so being able to build that confidence in their trust in me to say, but while I'm here and in this seat, we are the same team and I take the hit just like you take the hit. And that's different. You got to show a level of accountability back to your team in doing this work. You got to show a level of protection around that staff and investment in them. And when you talk about the depleted environments, what I will say is that sometimes you got to be willing to go in and fight a little bit for a little bit more. And what I'll say is that I asked for more in a couple of different pockets. I got some of it. I didn't get the rest. But it was interesting because nobody had actually ever asked on behalf of my agency for a number of years. And so even the asking, even though we didn't get all of what we wanted, but we got some. And someone said, yeah, that part of our budget enhancement has always been denied and we've never appealed it. I was like, why not? Let's appeal it. And then we made it, and then it made it into the enhancement and it got approved. And we're all sitting there like, we didn't ask for enough, you guys. I mean, you know, we were like, shoot, we should have asked for more. But they had never actually even made it to that process. So sometimes it's also about leaning in, right? And being able to bring that voice and to ask for more. You won't get it all. You won't get it all the first time. But also as leadership and as organizations, when you do ask for more, if you can show that return on investment, if you can show what you've been able to accomplish in the time frame that the leadership, the legislators need to see, you gave us this much and we did this much. Think about if you actually had given us this much, how much more we could do for the state and for the citizens. That gives you the ability to go back in and ask for more the next time. Please know I'm going to be asking for more this year, even in these tight times, because the work that we do has ripple effects across state agencies. So.